Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody, welcome to TFT Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee. And this is your Weird Week. Well, it wasn't such a weird week last week. And in a sense, it was kind of predictable, wasn't it? You know, all the talk in the U.S. and, I assume it will affect world production in some capacity, was the UAW striking against the against the auto companies. And the whole thing is United Auto Workers, they're going after all three at the same time.
It's pretty ambitious.
And it's pretty obvious, I think, as we go through our cards from last week, that this is what the cards were pointing at.
Definitely some strong correlations.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at that, shall we? The first card, the major focus theme or tone for the Weird Week was
the Chariot reversed. And that was from the Twin Tarot Oracle deck, by the way.
And the Chariot reversed reflects the whole full stop. Everything came to a full stop. They stopped production. Plants closed. Some plants laid off workers. It's going to have a boomerang effect where eventually more things are going to be stalled and not moving forward.
It seemed like everybody knew that they were coming to this point for a long time, but still there was no way to bring oppositions together at all.
Well,
That's the Chariot reverse.
If you listen, yes, that is correct. I'll leave it at that because I'll get into this other thing I'm thinking a little later. The Tower upright is card 2. And what is card 2?
Well, it's what we will find out, what we will see. It's the mysteries. And of course, we use the Secrets Tarot for that.
We saw it fall apart, Negotiations went nowhere and this tower crumbled. Perhaps the auto companies feel we've been fair. We treat our workers fairly. I'm making $21 million, but they're doing okay, and so they just didn't see the forest for the trees here, and they weren't really offering enough. And not only that, the UAW keeps talking about the sacrifices they had to make, and I've always said this no matter what industry you work in. You give something back to management to help them out, you'll never get it back. And see, they lost a lot of benefits. They lost different things. I don't know if it was concerning their retirement, maybe it's pay increases, whatever the case was, they lost things that they want back now that they're making record profits.
The Tower was the perfect card because, of course, the Tower represents the idea of egos that are going to crash. And, of course, there still is
on
a
both
chance
sides.
For this on both sides, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
With neither side maybe actually realizing a success, as they term it.
Well, even when you speak of egos, Sean Fain, I kind of like his chutzpah. But, he's got an ego there. I'm pretty sure he's a personality and he's feeling his power right now. And, power can do things to people, whether it's on the UAW side, whether it's on the corporate side.
Well, let's move on to card 3. What
3.
Other perspectives need to be considered? And this is our joint deck, the Tarot of Opposition.
And how do we read the card in this position, Mr. O?
Well, we tend to look at both sides, and we tend to also wonder if there's a gray liminal area in between that might fit. But we try to just do service to what seems, the most pertinent.
Right. Sometimes I favor what shows up on top over what's on the bottom, but there are times where it just seems like equal weight is in order. And in this case, I did see a little bit of both. I know you have some thoughts on this, but, the Four of Cups to me reversed indicated, well, in both positions indicated that, both sides had opportunities, if you want to look at it from the other perspectives we need to consider to end this, or to try to come to some better terms. Maybe even, if the UAW or the auto companies could have at least, made some negotiations that brought them a little bit closer together, maybe they would have delayed the strike, if they were making some absolute progress.
Well, with the last card, we were talking about ego, go with before fall.
Mhm.
And you kind of see it here a little bit too, because the idea is that each side was maybe reaching for what they defined as their answer, as their choice. And of course, let the pieces fall where they may. So in considering that both sides have a perspective, there still seems to be no way to kind of bring any of this to some consensus.
There's a disingenuousness too on, both sides, but really, I have to say with the corporate, they keep saying we have to remain competitive. We can't give you all this money because we won't be able to remain competitive. And true, Tesla workers get kind of screwed by Elon Musk. They don't get what they truly deserve, pay-wise and otherwise. And, it's true we're competing globally, but the bottom line is shareholders are making massive profits. They don't have any problem giving the upper echelon massive bonuses and big salaries all the time. The question for me is, why does, this idea of maintaining, what's the word again? Maintaining competitive edge always fall on the workers' back and not on other segments? Is there cuts in blue collar? Is there cuts in, the wages of the top for this? There's never those sacrifices. So I feel here opportunities to try to come together and be fairer were present that maybe were not looked at.
Realized.
Let's move on to card 5, because that's an interesting one in this position. I'm sorry, card 4. What is the overall impact?
Right, from the Healing Light Tarot, and that's the 5 of Pentacles upright. And so you could say the overall impact is that there's still some pain to go around here for sure.
There's going to be pain, and let's face it, there is pain. Obviously, if the strike goes on, it's going to affect workers' livelihoods. If the strike goes on, it's going to affect other industries that are associates of the auto industry and their production, their ability to pay their employees. Stocks may tumble because of this. And also, with the 5 of Pentacles here upright, I feel that again, it's just going to look like a lot of, what about for us consumers? Okay. It may be harder for us to get things repaired, those with newer cars that rely on the parts that are being manufactured now. And also, what's going to happen? Are the big people at the top going to cut their salaries to accommodate workers? Are shareholders going to get less of a cut to pay for the workers' demands? We are. We, the consumers, are.
Well, some of this could end up falling to taxpayers in general, things like that. Another way of looking at this too is that this is a trickle down kind of thing. And of course, we're talking really about intransience of some sort, trickling down. And so those at the bottom of the economic pile will be affected more so than other people, maybe people who are able to have the luxury of striking to some degree for a while. But other people who maybe are relying on the industry in general or whatever it is, the economy is going to be even worse for them.
And finally, our last card, card 5, what could win or not the weird week? We did pull, it was from the Global Fusion Tarot, right? Your deck. And we did pull the Knight of Cups upright, and that is my only stumbling block here. And it's not, really. Remember, our question is what could win the weird week? That is, if it happened. And it would have been the Knight of Cups, wouldn't it? Somebody who could arbitrate, somebody who could come up with a fair deal, somebody who is empathic and willing to listen to both sides of the argument and see what's needed to try to pull things together in a spirit of cooperation and benevolence.
Right. I mean, it could have been somebody who maybe comes slightly from a spiritual background. It could have been somebody that maybe comes from a more progressive background without it being necessarily politics, just community groups, things like that.
Somebody who tried to pull, a rabbit out of hat here. Let me just make it clear. I don't think Sean Fain is a Knight of Cups. I don't think that anybody in the auto echelons of management is a Knight of Cups, and we had politicians speak on this, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, people on the right, and I don't feel that they're necessarily there either. We really needed that Knight of Cups in shining armor to come in and save the day. Unfortunately, it did not happen. We'll just have to see how this
Exactly.
will unfold. We don't know if this will be what comes up in the weird week ahead or not. This strike, with people digging in their heels the way they are, even though I see some progress is being made, it might take more than a week to iron this
We're gonna
whole
have to
thing
keep our
out.
eye on it, see how it works out.
And there's other fish to fry. There are other strikes going on still, the Writers and the Screen Actors Guild and all of that. And there's other things worldwide happening. So let's get started on this weird week, shall we? All right.
So, once again, from the Twin Tarot Oracle deck, Banshee will seek to find what our major focus or theme, the tone for the week. This card may give us an idea of what the bigger or underlying issues are that may present themselves.
Indeed. And it's funny too and ironic in the last reading that we did have the Chariot as the major theme or focus because it's kind of a vehicle. So I thought that was, it seemed crystal clear to me what the cards were talking about last week. All right. Onward and upward we go, right?
Right.
Okay. It's the reversed because it's got the dark purple border, Devil. Well, that's a new one for the weird week.
I'll say.
I don't think we've had this in that position yet.
Well, and a lot of times
When it's a naked card, boy.
when I've looked at the pictures
Huh?
or the concepts of, the devil, I always come back to that idea about codependency, because the devil talks about us giving in to our desires or our, things that make us, kind of addicted in a way. And so what am I to say here, is that maybe a lot of us are going to be really struggling with the feeling, for whatever reason that we don't want, to give up maybe our lifestyles, or some aspect of things that are pleasurable in order to make changes of some sort.
Well, you know me, Mr. O, I'm going to toss a little wrench on you. I'm looking at this card, and the first thing I thought about is, who's pulling the strings this week? Who is pulling people along? This could be through manipulation. This could be through trickery. This could be through, and also this speaks of obsessions. People being obsessed with something overly.
Okay, so we might be dealing with a certain,
A certain
legal situation that's going on in various courts.
It could be about legal, but I was just thinking in more plain language. It could be somebody like a Donald Trump, like a Vladimir Putin. Somebody who pulls strings, knows how to manipulate people, knows how to get people to follow blindly without recourse.
It's being oppressed in a way. It's the sense of oppression.
It is a sense of oppression. Who's pulling the strings and oppressing others. And it could maybe even shine a light on other things.
So this may be the focus for the week in the sense that maybe we're going to see some more draconian things going on. And of course, this just applies to maybe some of the very right-wing politics that are going on in our own country, right?
Who's pulling the strings right now in Congress that needs to pass a budget by September 30th or they shut down the government? And there's all kinds of gamesmanship going on there too. So.
Well, I keep thinking of women's rights and all the recalcitrant anti-diversity, anti-minority stuff that's going on in courts and legislatures.
Well, there's stuff going on in other countries as well, like
Sure.
the anniversary of that crusader for women's rights, or the person who died, for not wearing the hijab. I believe that's what it was. Her anniversary, and her father apparently was taken into custody. So also we have an interesting prisoner swap of sorts going on with Iran right now, and that is causing all kinds of ripples.
That's sort
Let's
of
just
an
say.
act of puppet
And
manipulation
who's
too.
pulling the strings there?
All right, so let's move on to card 2, and that is taken from the Secrets Tarot. It's what we will find out or see. What are the mysteries that possibly can be uncovered? Guess we're going to hope so, eh? And
Oh,
it's the reversed Nine of Wands.
wow.
And what we may find out is that, sometimes there's a morale problem going on. There's a lot of people feeling like, maybe things aren't worth fighting for. If it's not morale problem, it just sort of talks to a disposition of weakness or helplessness, or feeling that nothing really changes.
It could be a defeat, somebody putting up the white flag of surrender, some people giving up hope, people giving up. It's definitely somebody who feels, that there is no longer a gain in what they are doing. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I can add too much more to that. I mean, a lot
Well,
of
I
times,
can, but I think when we tie it up,
yeah,
I see something there. I mean, it could be the war efforts. There could be some setbacks for either Ukraine or
right.
Russia. It could be a
Yeah, I
number of
mean,
things.
you're right. It could be talking about climate control too.
Yeah.
So
There
we're
are
moving
some
on.
children from Spain right now who are, or Portugal or Spain, who are fighting the at the Human Rights Commission against, countries who do not want to work on climate change, on fixing the
Right, as a
problem.
denial of their human
As a
rights.
denial of their human rights. There's a major case going on where they are going after 28 major European countries.
Okay, so card 3 is from the Tarot of Oppositions, and it's our jointly owned deck, so we both shuffle this one. And the idea here is that it's both images, reversed and upright, are on the same card, and you can work with those extremes or consider areas in between there as well.
All right, thank you. Oh, this one's not shuffling as well on here, but it's a hard one to shuffle.
Right.
That's better.
And so our card
It's upright, isn't it?
is Judgment Upright. Major Arcana 20.
Karma.
So the other perspectives are, in fact, a range between, some serious, spiritual or, cosmic kind of forces going on here. The idea that maybe there is, an ultimate karma, but it could work maybe not the way we want in some respects. Or the idea that some people can really decide that they don't need more enlightenment, or maybe that they do, but that there's going to always be that kind of sense of pull that some people really feel they like their world the way it is, whether it's smaller or more insulated or not.
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know. Yeah, we do have to look at both sides here. So I feel here that karma is at play. you know? And it's like how people respond, are they going to respond with ever the best of intentions, or are they going to respond with the worst? Are they going to respond, in a manner where you can criticize, but use constructive criticism to try to get things right again? Or will you go for the destructive? It is on the up side, it's upright, even though we consider both sides. So I'd like to think somebody here or some situation, is trying to do what's right in this situation, but they're up against a lot of people who do not want to do that. Boy, it almost sounds like Congress in a way, but I don't know. Just that card anyway. So, this is a real toughie here. I think this card is going to be kind of pivotal maybe in the week ahead. What other perspectives need to be considered? I guess what I need to say in regards to really fitting it in with that question is that the perspectives that need to be considered is that, we can approach this in a positive, constructive manner, or we can try to break it down. We can try to make changes that are beneficial, or we can try to stick with the status quo that is not working and is harmful.
Well, that status quo, when you think about this, is maybe, the fact that judgment can talk about some pretty apocalyptic kind of things going on. And so we could easily apply that to, some of the war things, some of the political things,
some of the climate
things.
Yeah.
And so to not act on some of these things is truly going to be not only ignorant, but really defeating of life.
Well, it's on me now, isn't it?
That's right.
The Healing Light Tarot for card 4, which is
the overall impact of all of this or of that. What's going on? What will it make us feel like or want to do?
I can't rule out the strikes in this either at this point. Somebody caving, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody pulling the strings, right? So, I can't rule that out either here.
So the devil is AI.
Yes, maybe. Because AI, of course, is something the automakers have to worry about too. Let's just get robots to do all the work and can these workers that want to steal our profits. Good luck getting somebody to buy your cars then if they can't afford them. It's getting that bad now. All right, here we go.
The overall impact.
This is really weird. It's the sun. Wow, spin it, Mr. O.
Well, maybe everything hits a crescendo. We're looking at these cards here, and maybe whether it's, one particular, idea, or whether it's, some of these are going in different areas, but still accumulating, and it reaches a crescendo, and somebody says, we have to make a big change here. We have to make positive, successful change. We have to bring some light to the situation. We have to bring knowledge. It almost sounds like the UFOs are going to reveal themselves. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, this is a real funny one. But, we'll talk about, well, never mind. Just a minute, I'll bring something up. But how do you make sense of that? I guess what I would say is that there is success in some, the overall impact is a success. What is that success? Is it bringing to life some inequities, some unfairness, some wrongs? Is that what it is? Or does this situation ultimately bring out the best in some people? Is that what's going to happen here? That people will finally start pulling together to do the right thing? Well, that can't be Congress. And or is it what you sometimes say about the sun, Mr. O, is that the overall impact is we're going to learn a lot from this situation. We're going to be enlightened by what we see happening here.
Right, that maybe there will be a majority of people who really come to their senses or help the others start to come to their senses.
Well, or people just see the light. They see beyond the deception and the manipulation here. Maybe.
I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where where we always have everybody, where we ever have everybody at the table here. But what we can hope for is a suitable majority of people who realize whatever these matters are, the other side has to come to terms with it.
Very interesting.
So what could win this weird week? What could maybe be the strategy or outcome that ends up making everything a lot better?
Or not.
Or not. And it's the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot that will give us this possible answer.
Very interesting reading.
Yeah, in some ways there's a bit of obtuseness or vagary around it. In some ways there's not.
In some ways there's that.
So our final card then is the Knight of Pentacles reversed.
Ooh.
And it sounds to me like we're trying to kick the can down the road and not deal with the situations, whatever these are. We're trying to avoid doing it, or we're trying to do it as slowly as possible. Maybe there's some platitudes. Oh, so-and-so company has pledged so-and-so billions to this effort. Well, we'll see how that goes, right?
Next week is definitely not September 30th, right? So it's not a government shutdown yet, but let's just say I could almost see that here, this dragging of the heels, this slow, painful process. But also this could be that, yes, I like what Mr. O said here, that we kick this can down the road. We don't deal with what we see unfolding here. Or despite the fact that, more knowledge and illumination is revealed, we just don't choose to act on it, or we're not able to act on it. Possibly there are obstacles in our path.
Well, even if we are looking at Mr. Trump in those situations, and you could sort of say that some of these cards kind of flow, the idea is they're only trying to delay things, no matter how much may be discovered, how much more may come to light. They're really trying to be the ones kicking the can. So it fits for that scenario as well.
It absolutely fits for that scenario. We've still got the writers and the other strikes hanging. All this could fit with that. The Ukraine war, even if we get some illumination, even if Judgment Day comes, even if somebody suffers a setback, I don't think things are going to come to an end. I think it's just going to crawl painfully forward, inching its way forward to whatever the destiny is going to be ultimately. I want to recap.
Yeah, but it seems like in most scenarios, it's like a lot of crying and then a lot of nothing.
I like that. And isn't that the way things have been going pretty much?
But let's recap it then.
Well, we start with the devil. That's the main focus for this week. Somebody's pulling some strings. Somebody's stringing people along, and it could be somebody who's a master manipulator. Frankly, I don't think the orange guy is a master manipulator, but he is a manipulator. And he's got quite the following of people who thinks that no matter how much wrong he does, he can do no wrong.
Well, whether it's world or international concerns, whether it's climate control, all of that, somebody with a big megaphone is trying to tell people that don't believe what you see. It's really not what you see. Mm-hmm. And of course, we know that that's not true at all.
Absolutely. And so we'll just have to see. Like I said, I'm very open, I feel, with where this is going to lead next week. But let's look at that Nine of Wands here reversed. That's definitely about a defeat, failure, or a feeling thereof. Somebody giving up because they feel there's no hope, that they're just beating a dead horse, so to speak, and they can't move forward. And it's time to put up the flag and say, I'm done with this.
I get the feeling that because of that position too, that maybe this is somebody who's giving up in advance.
And that's true. This is the position of what we will find out or see. And we've already had this week some retirements in Congress, for example. People who have finally just decided, I can't fight this fight anymore. Some people, of course, are saying, well, I'm getting old. I'm like Romney, who's resigning. I'm getting old. I want to get out of this now, and let younger people take over. Is that really true? Or do you realize you can't make any headway with the way things have been going in our country?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I do see what you're saying there. There could be people just giving up in advance. But let's see what the third card is. It's what other perspectives? And of course, we had judgment.
Well, a lot of people are going to really feel like there are going to be some big losers, that somebody's going to pay a very big price, judgment reversed, maybe, their mortal soul, quote unquote. And of course, if you go into, right to life concerns, the abortion debates, this could be that kind of thing. But in terms, anyways, of religiosic, social kind of situations going on, you do see a lot of this, stuff playing out, that this is because we're not, a Christian enough country, things like that. But it also applies to international concerns like climate control and what's going on with climate change. That there's some really apocalyptic kind of things that may be happening here, that are happening.
And again, it's an interplay between karmas, good karma, bad karma.
Good for reminding.
I didn't really focus on that before, but also, constructive criticism and progress or destruction. Do you want to bring things down? Do we make things better by breaking things down, or do we make them better by firming things up? I think that's the question. Do we build things up, build things better, or do we go back and just break things down?
But we have sufficient people on both sides who have a vested interest in keeping their status quos. We can't ever seem to come to maybe some sort of middle point.
True that, Mr. O. So card 4, the overall impact with my Healing Light Tarot was surprisingly the happy card of the Sun, which really isn't bad either way. And it was upright when I pulled it. And so, I tend to think that this could be, we're all going to be really illuminated by whatever's happening in this week ahead. Knowledge is power, and maybe, there's a hope with that knowledge that we could act on it. Some things will come to light maybe that we need to see, or maybe some, maybe the overall impact is there are some people who really are trying to put us on a more successful track.
That's well said. I don't think I can add to that.
Well, let me leave you to start with the Knight of Pentacles here, right? It's Pentacles for the card 5, which is what will win or not the weird week ahead.
Well, it could be that we have a situation where people don't feel they can carry on. They either want to sort of surrender, once again, in advance, correlation there. But people are just feeling like maybe they can wait on this thing to solve itself. Maybe the revelations of the other cards put somebody in a corner and they don't want to have to commit to anything. You kind of see that as it plays out with some of those cards there, in a way, the puppet master or the apocalyptic things. So maybe somebody wants to just delay this thing being
delay,
resolved.
Deny, delay. That sounds like a lawyer commercial.
It does.
A local lawyer commercial. Well, you know what? I kind of see a correlation here, in that the Knight of Pentacles can also not only be slow moving or non-moving, just stagnating, it's lacking the motivation, feeling that sense of failure here, unwilling to be positive and trying to move forward in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there is that element of it, but also really just a slow, if any, progress. And I feel there's no progress. I almost feel like things kind of status quo out, nothing becomes of the knowledge we've gained, other than, it might, well, for example, in the strike, if other people, if strikers or the management brings something to light that makes the other side look bad, it could influence how quickly they start to work on a positive resolution, or it could divide them further apart.
Who knows?
Just an example, because I think that there's a lot of things that could happen in this next week. And so we're
Right.
just...
This could certainly be talking about the strike that we already thought about in some ways.
And also the strikes that are stagnating out in Hollywood. They've been going on for what? 5
Months.
weeks or more? Months now, right?
Yeah, I
My
think so.
God. So, I mean, it's really getting out of hand, and you'll just have to stay tuned, come back, and find out what's happening on our next episode of Your Weird Week. We will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.